I love organizational systems. All those, man, look at people are clapping. I just see these. Let's do a little Myers-Briggs personality inventory right here. So I just love all those ways that we can keep both things and ideas properly sorted. Household paperwork, for example, from recipes to insurance policies, all belong in color-coded file folders, of course. So it's no surprise that I entered the Episcopal Church through the Anglo-Catholic wing of this church, where I learned to treasure the proper way to do liturgy and to cherish a color-coded liturgical year. As some of you know, I also earned a doctoral degree in systematic theology. That's an academic discipline that ensures a place for every doctrine with every doctrine in its proper place. Oh, glory! We humans are storytelling, meaning-making, system-building creatures. It's how we orient ourselves to the wider world around us, to each other, to various communities. And I'm grateful for that distinctive imprint on human creativity and for the structure it provides for human communities. Grateful for all of that. And while I appreciate it, let's also notice when anxiety about proper belonging seeps out into public policies and legislation and judicial rulings. That impulse, of course, fueled the era of Jim Crow segregation in this country, when white people and black people had places where they belonged. I mean, we even labeled those places to make it super clear where people properly belong. Women have encountered that same impulse whenever they've been told they shouldn't do a man's job. Why aren't you in the kitchen? In this LGBTQ Pride Month, we can note how that impulse shows up when people aren't staying put in their properly gendered intimacies. A man doesn't belong with another man. That's the wrong file folder. Girls don't wear army boots. That's the wrong wardrobe. Two women can't raise a child. That's the wrong form of a family. "57 years ago this weekend, patrons of New York City's Stonewall Inn rebelled against that impulse for a regulatory regime. They refused to play by the rules anymore, the ones that defined who they should and should not be, who they should and should not love. And of course, that rebellion launched a gay and lesbian liberation movement, leading eventually to LGBTQ Pride Month in June, and here we are on Pride Sunday. All of that is reason enough to mark and celebrate this Stonewall anniversary weekend, especially in this lakeshore region here in Western Michigan, where so many LGBT people have found a safe haven and made a home. All of that is plenty of reasons to celebrate this weekend. And I also want to invite us to notice still more from this celebration, ways that we can glean insights for all of us together. Insights for our own lives of faith and insights for our shared ministry and witness to the gospel. And St. Paul can help us. Darren, wasn't that fun to read about sin on this Pride Sunday? Thank you, Darren, for reading it so passionately. We heard again this morning from this baptismal chapter in Paul's letter to the Romans, and Paul is emphasizing in this chapter the importance of dying in order to rise. The old self is buried with Christ in baptism so that a new self can rise with Christ into new life. Therefore, and this is one of those really big biblical therefores, therefore, Paul says, do not remain enslaved to the realm of sin and death. All those social systems and regulatory regimes are buried with the old self. They belong to the realm of sin and death. All those shoulds that divide us and exhaust us. Have you never been terrorized by the word should? I have. And it consumes us with anxiety over who properly belongs, where and when. Anxiety because we're not sure where we belong. But in the realm of grace and life, we are set free from these anxieties. We're free to imagine a whole different kind of world. And then seek God's grace so that we can build that world together. That's what we're trying to do in this parish on this good road as we keep talking about it. This good road that we're traveling together. We observe Black History Month in February and LGBTQ Pride Month in June and the month-long season of creation in September. And we do all of that because we're prayerfully trying to imagine what this world could look like, transformed by grace. Unearned, unmerited, freely given divine grace. There are so many things we could imagine because of that grace. We could notice when that transformative grace shows up, when it shows up in our social systems, women can breathe without asking men for permission. People of color no longer keep looking over their shoulders in white spaces. LGBT people stop wondering, was the closet maybe better, safer? And let's also imagine when grace shows up that other species no longer tremble in fear in the presence of humans. That's the transforming power of divine grace. And that grace creates communities of genuine welcome. That word, we use it so often. We've probably, I know I have, taken for granted the power of that word. It is well that you have come here. You are welcome here. What an amazing thing to say. And in fact, Matthew's Jesus this morning declares that hospitality itself is the essence of the gospel. Those who welcome you, he says to his disciples, welcome me, and therefore the one who sent me. At the heart of the gospel is welcoming the love and grace of God into our lives, and this will not leave us unchanged. To the contrary, it's as if we have risen from the dead, Paul says, into new life. And that's one of the reasons to celebrate LGBTQ Pride Month, because so many LGBT people, I can guarantee you, every single one of us LGBT persons here this morning have stories to tell about dying to the old self and rising into new life. Stories about leaving the deadly closet behind and seeking out abundant life. Stories that can help all of us, every single one of us, encounter in fresh ways the gospel of grace in Christ. I was reminded in a fresh way myself about this kind of welcome and what it looks like in a recent essay by a wonderful theologian by the name of Catherine Tanner. She was writing an essay about the wider world of God's creation and how we welcome other species into our lives of prayer and worship. There are at least 2 other species here this morning, and I have to just say quickly, because I love this, their names are River and Jordan. So Catherine Tanner is writing about welcoming other species into our lives of prayer and worship, and she says, every creature of God, every single one, worships God, and they do this by being exactly the creature God made them to be. Dolphins living fully as dolphins, raccoons in all their raccoonishness, squirrels being squirrely. As Tanner puts it so beautifully, God's creatures worship God as they become more beautifully, more wonderfully, more radiantly, and more resplendently themselves. That is the amazingly simple and profound message for all of us on this LGBTQ Pride Sunday. It's this: be who you are. That's it. That's it. Be exactly the very creature God created you to be, more fully, more deeply, more thoroughly, and more intensely soaked in the love that made you. Now, actually, you might not even know who you really are, or what God had in mind, for heaven's sake, by making you as you. In fact, few of us have any real sense of that because we're so busy trying to look good and trying to conform and trying to fit in and trying to be whatever so many others think we should be. Creating and cultivating a community of genuine welcome can liberate all of us from the tyranny of should. You are welcome in this place. Hear those words as if for the very first time you are welcome here, exactly as you are, and for that magnificent creature you are still becoming, that glorious expression of divine creativity and God's own image. Have you looked in the mirror recently? Look how crazily wonderful God is making you you. You are welcome here, not because of what you've done or haven't done, not because you've paid all your debts, not because you've kept all your promises, not because you're the best little boy or girl in the whole wide world, but only because you are loved and cherished for exactly who you are. Can you feel how those words start to re-regulate your nervous system? And you can maybe breathe just a little bit more freely. Your soul is feeling soothed. Now imagine a whole community embodying that kind of welcome for the world's healing. That's exactly what God is inviting us to do in this place right here, in our prayer, in our worship, and in our shared witness to the gospel. We, by God's amazing grace, we can change the world with a welcome.